Hello and welcome to PGurus channel. I'm your host Sri Iyer. Today I am with Sri Rakesh Kaul, an author and volunteer for Kashmiri Pandits. His recent book, Dawn, the Warrior Princess of Kashmir, has been published by Penguin. His earlier book, The Last Queen of Kashmir, was published by HarperCollins. Some of the viewers might remember Professor or Dr. Subramanian Swamy plugging his book. He must have read your book, Rakesh ji. Welcome to PGurus channel.
Shri Namaskar. It's a sad day, but I'm happy that I'm here with you.
Yes, indeed. And what we are going to talk about today, viewers, is something that is extremely sad. There is a new front. We would like to think of this as one of those, again, offshoots of one of the existing established jihadi organizations in the Kashmir Valley. They call themselves the Resistance Front, TRF. And looks like they've been wanted to make their presence known in the valley. And guess what they did? They picked an innocent Kashmiri Pandit Sarpanch, all of 35 years of age, and killed him. And it's very abominable the way this has been done. And now, the government is basically in with the center. The center is doing this, administering Jammu and Kashmir Union Territory. So it becomes a little bit of a concern what is happening in the valley, to shed a little bit more light, and also about the motives of these kinds of outfits that come up. Let's talk to Rakesh ji. Rakesh ji, what is your take on this?
So first, Ajay Bharati's heinous, the crime that was committed, the entire Kashmiri Pandit community has joined in sorrow, anguish, pain, because it is a reflection of our continuing genocide, and that there is a determined foe that is committed to the ethnic cleansing of all Kashmiri Pandits, the Aborigines of Kashmir. Sri, in terms of your specific question, the calculations are very obvious. This new organization needed to establish its bona fide. And in Kashmir, the time-tested methodology is for a terrorist organization to be baptized, or even some of the militant politicians, they had to lead an effort that would result in the deaths of Kashmiri Pandits. So in a sense, this is their baptism in the valley. Number two, why did they pick Ajay Pandita Bharati? When you get to know this man, you find that he was an internally displaced Kashmiri Pandit, but he went back. He went with love. He went secure in his beliefs that what matters is humanity. He took a loan, he rebuilt his home, got his orchards going, didn't have a border wall on his compound. He was so popular, and everybody around him was from the majority community in the state. They democratically elected him to be the Sarpanch, and he served them. So it isn't, people say, well, Kashmiri goodwill. No, that is no guarantee for the lives of Kashmiri Pandits. And they took this man and they killed him because they wanted to send a message. Even he cannot be allowed to stay in the valley. So that's why he was picked. He was a symbol that he had the name Bharti as his appellation. They cannot tolerate the idea of India there. He was an elected, democratically elected person. They cannot tolerate democracy because they want to establish Sharia. He was a popular, peaceful Kashmiri Pandit with universal values, and they couldn't tolerate that. He had rebuilt a temple there, they couldn't tolerate that. But the third sinister aspect of the timing of this was, as the whole world knows, India and China are locked in an eyeball to eyeball confrontation. And the all weather friend must have thought, why not stoke trouble in the valley? Because that's where the supply chain goes into Ladakh, create trouble, create the internal front against India. And so all pieces came together. And if, as a result of this, they scare Kashmiri Pandits, the minuscule numbers who are left there, and get them to flee, that's the cherry on the topic. Very cold blooded, calculated move by them.
Well, I am reading an article that is going to appear in PGurus shortly, and that will probably come ahead of this video. And what I'm reading is really heartrending, because many Sarpanchas have come out in his support and said what a great man he was, that he had uprooted himself from wherever he was. He came back, he established this, he won the respect and love of the majority community there. They, elected him, and his daughter is really. I mean, I'm just going to read what he said. That she says, "My father was a lion. He lived life on his own terms and did what he wanted to do. He represented local Muslims and Hindus in the area and never discriminated between them on the basis of their religion. He tried to work for each one of them, and it is for this reason when he decided to contest elections, large numbers of local residents came forward and supported." And it's, when somebody tries to make a genuine effort to take everyone along, these kind of miscreants, I shouldn't say miscreants, they're terrorists. The name itself, is very deceiving. The resistance front, what my foot resistance front, they were trying to find a secular name for what essentially is another jihadi outfit. And these people need to be shown their ways, and they need to be treated in the same way, I think, that they treat others. I mean, the union government perhaps, he has been, seized of the COVID problem, and then now the border tension. And in fact, yesterday I had a hangout with Sri RVS Mani, and he expressed the same concern. He said that anytime there is a border skirmish in Ladakh from Chinese, there will be some other thing that Pakistan will try to do somewhere else. And they have played their hand. These rascals don't seem to ever have any shame. They don't even know how to treat their own COVID-19 patients. I'm sorry, I'm going on a rant here. I mean, first of all, you have set your own house in order. There's a joker who's a selected prime minister, doesn't know what he talks half the time. Anyway, that's a matter for a different time and occasion. Rakeshji, I'd like you to share with our viewers and through this video to the government, there is something they need to do. They have to react back to this. They cannot let this thing go on.
Yeah. So that's a great question, and I would break the answer in several parts. The first thing is that it's pretty clear that late Ajay Pandita ji, may he be granted moksha, he had become apprehensive and he had asked for security. And there was clearly a lapse somewhere. So a commission needs to be set up to find out what was the intelligence lapse, what was the lapse in administration, that he was not given security. And that post-mortem won't help him. But there are others like Ajay Bharti. And so they need to get protection so that this doesn't end up into a killing spree. This beast needs to be fed. It won't stop with Ajay Bharti. So the first thing we have to do is understand what happened. The second thing we have to do is clearly the entire machinery of law and state force has to go and seek out these killers and provide exemplary, swift justice. So that is what I call the uh, response to the specific event. But there's a systemic chronic issue. The chronic issue is this. Every time there is talk about the Kashmiri Pandits coming back to the valley, there has been a massacre. Every time. So when the government approved the domicile bill and the government said that they wanted Kashmiri Pandits to register and preparatory to them returning back, this was basically a message. Don't you guys show your face here. This was a chilling message. And so I think the government now has to basically solve the problem. And the solution to the problem is very simple. It starts with the premise, it's almost a Pavlovian solution. Every time you hurt a Kashmiri Hindu, every time you hurt an Indian, you are going to be worse off. You're going to be worse off. And here are some of the proactive steps that the government should consider. For example, in the classes of the domicile bill that were approved, they should now go forward and say that in that current language, where if you have served for 10 years in the state, you can apply for domicile status, they should say, if within that central government service, you were part of the armed forces, or you were in the police or intelligence and you served in Kashmir, maybe only for a year, that tenure will be waived because we need you people, ex-servicemen, to come in and be part of the security solution for when Kashmiri Pandits go back. So that message should go that Kashmiri Pandits are not going to go back to the valley naked. They're going to go back with their security enhanced. Number two, all these ideas that we will distribute Kashmiri Pandits now once again have been proven to be myths. Kashmiri Pandits have to be given a homeland in the valley that can be a secure zone, that can be economically sustainable, that can be politically empowered. Because it's very clear the forces of hegemony that are the theocratic forces, they will never ever coexist with people who are not of their kind. Doesn't matter if these people are walking angels of goodness like Ajay Bharti. So there are steps that we want to recommend to the government. But the big frustration is that the government has not engaged with Kashmiri Pandits. We have met the Honorable Prime Minister. He was kind enough to meet us in Houston. We have said, Prime Minister, please instruct the Ministry of Home Affairs. Let's create an advisory council of Kashmiri Pandits that can work with the Ministry of Home Affairs and put a plan in place that gets us back to the valley in a safe, secure manner. That has not been done. Instead, we do these piecemeal things. We send Kashmiri Pandits back to the valley in some job package or the other job package. Most of them don't have accommodation, so they have to rent apartments from people that may be hostile to them. We're sending sacrificial lambs. And Shri, through your video, I am telling India, when I see the sentiment of the Kashmiri Pandit community, no more are they going to accept that they will be the sacrificial lambs for Indian polity.
You are actually echoing what Dr. Subramanian and Swamy has been saying all along. He said 5 lakh Kashmiri Pandits got displaced. Let's put 10 lakh ex-servicemen back in Kashmir with a special package with arms so that they can defend themselves, prep the ground. See, his thing is you prep the ground, make sure that there are enclaves that are secure, that can be guarded with their own thing, and slowly start putting, replace one family of ex-servicemen with one Kashmiri Pandit family, and slowly osmosis this. But all the time there will be secure enclaves so that within that zone it's all safe and you can build an ecosystem step by step. And this is something that should have been looked at very seriously by the government, and giving special packages for one or two families or one or two individuals. I think that is, you are absolutely right. Setting up sacrificial lambs, that is a no-go. By the way, Rakeshji, I am going to forward this video to USC IRF, which has a one-track vision. It only sees this side. It won't see this side. I'm going to try and open up their eyes and say, look, you have two eyes. You have two sides to this story. Look at what is happening now in Kashmir. You want to denounce the Indian government for the minority rights? Tell them that they missed out on a very, very small and significant minority who have been seeing nothing but terror in their families. 2 generations have gone, 30 plus years now, and still people are in refugee camps. Why don't the USCIRF look at that too? Because I'm saying at this time that sometimes what happens is you got to put external pressure for the government to act. I'm sorry to be harsh. I know Article 370 abrogation was a big deal. Yes, but we talked about this after that, you and I, where we said that here are the steps that we need to do. You even said that Kashmiri Pandits can self-fund the development of Kashmir, that they can find very, very high-paying jobs for the local population. All that can only happen when there is confidence that their lives are secure, that things are going to be more than normal, and I don't see that happening in the present circumstances.
And the reason is this: the government of India has had an ambivalence about Kashmir that has been beyond mystifying. It has proven to be self-destructive. I do not know what is it that stops the government of India, the Ministry of External Affairs, to ask the Pakistani ambassador to come into the Ministry of Home Affairs and convey to the ambassador of Pakistan that the government of India holds Pakistan responsible for the genocide and ethnic cleansing of Kashmiri Pandits as a state sponsor of that, and will hold them accountable for that. What is it that stops them when it's glaringly obvious to the whole world that it is Pakistan that's the sponsor of our genocide and ethnic cleansing, supported and aided by their local proxies? That is the question I have for the government of India. Everything starts from there. Why the ambivalence? Why the ambiguity? Why that weakness?
And I couldn't agree with you more. I mean, we have to take some diplomatic steps forward and bring this to the attention of the Pakistani ambassador. Again, these guys will come and, again, those are all more like optics. But on the ground, I think if they catch these perpetrators and book them and make sure that justice is served quickly, not allow these big bindi brigades to come in and then humanitarian reasons saying, oh, that person has this, and then they delay the whole justice process. India has had enough. They have to really, really crank up and fix their judiciary system and also this administrative system. In my opinion, Rakeshji, it has a very bloated bureaucracy, and because of the bloatedness, things just don't happen. People just keep moving files from one place to the other and don't even open them. And this doesn't augur well for the future of the country.
No, it doesn't. And I'm sure that the killers are walking around with complete sense of impunity, because after all, they look at Bita Karate, a self-confessed killer of Kashmiri Pandits, who after decades is free. Shame on us. Shame on a country that cannot move its machinery and say, we're going to put you behind bars.
I completely agree with you, sir. And I have a story that just played out last month. Iran tried to take down 6 water desalination plants of Israel. And Israel not only thwarted it, they wanted to teach Iran a lesson that they will never forget. You know what they did? They went to Iran's biggest port, Bandar Abbas. And what they did was they inserted a bug in their database. And every time the computer comes up and starts reading the database, it resets itself. They've tried it 5, 6 times. The thing is not coming up. Their complete database of this port operations is down. It's not coming up. So what does it mean? They'll have to manually enter God knows how many years of data of everything that ever got shipped through, assuming they have printouts of all these things. There are ways to try and teach people a lesson. And I wish India would, take a leaf out of the book of Israelis. They have dealt with every kind of eventuality. They know exactly how to deal with these kinds of problems. I hope India, you don't even have to go and manufacture a new response. For any issue, they probably have a manual that says, do this, do this, do this. In fact, if you give them time, they might even tell you where those people are holed up. Their security is one of the best. I'm just, exaggerating here, of course. But the point here is, they say that anyone who used to attack Israel was more concerned about the consequences, that they'll come back and give double the amount of heat. That's what deterred them from even acting against Israel. Anyway, so I think I digress from our point here. The point I'm trying to make here, and I think you're making the same point, that the government needs to show a very speedy response, and it is not a bitta karate. No, the people have now gotten used to some good things from this government. I think they expect speedy action. I'm glad that even on the Delhi riots, it took place 3 months ago, but systematically the government has now started charging people. No one can escape. And I can tell you today on this thing, when in March I said Mr. Arvind Kejriwal is responsible for a lot of the stuff that happened there, and just mark my words, it's getting closer and closer. This man has been in touch with that Tahir Hussain guy. Now call records have emerged of him talking at least 8 times during this process of throwing Molotov cocktails on Hindus. So see, it was done in Delhi to make a point to Donald Trump that, India is not manageable. So what I'm trying to say, Rakesh, is there is definitely a sloppy mechanism. That's the only word I can use in terms of being able to ward off, predict attacks, and thwart them. And who knows who else is in collusion in this case? And Anantnag is a rich bed of militants, has always been. I could be wrong about this. You can correct me. But sir, I really hope, it's my fervent hope, that for all Sanatanis of the world, from all of us, we pray and hope that justice is served, and it is served very quickly. If you would like to add something before we sign off, please go ahead.
I think the Kashmiri Pandits demand that those steps be taken so that there is speedy justice. But we are also demanding that the government of India turn this into a teaching movement that will act as a deterrent for the future. So not just justice for the past, but deterrence for the future. And we believe the best deterrence is to unequivocally, firmly, bulletproof a plan of return of the Kashmiri Pandits en masse, in force, to the valley. And when they see that determination, then they will know it's game over. Until then, this battle will go on.
And I'm hoping that this is not going to be too long a battle, because the tide has turned already in terms of the opinion. And I think we just need to have some more crisper, faster response, and more importantly, to prevent this kind of thing from happening in the future. Thank you very much, Rakesh ji, and all the best with your new book.
Thank you very much for having me.
Namaskar.